Hi, welcome back to another Pharmacy Republic video. My name is Shazli Hassan. I'm the prescribing pharmacist for Pharmacy Republic. Today we're going to look at the latest viral outbreak, monkeypox. So in this video we'll look at what the monkeypox virus actually is, how it's spread, the symptoms of a monkeypox infection. We'll look at previous outbreaks, and then we'll look at the current statistics. Now, monkeypox virus belongs to a family called the orthopox virus. Okay, it belongs to this family of viruses known as orthopox. They're DNA virus, they're brick shaped and they're quite large. They're about 4 times larger than the flu virus. Now, 4 of these orthopox viruses cause infections in humans. They are variola. Now, variola is responsible for the famous and deadly smallpox. Then we have vaccinia, which comes from the word of vacca, where we get the word vaccine from. Vacca in Latin means cow. And this is actually the virus that we inject to protect us from smallpox. Because all of these orthopox viruses are similar, they've got similar amino acid sequences. When we create an immune response to one, we create immune response to all, which is why when we vaccinate with vaccinia, we protect it against smallpox. Then other 2 of the orthopox viruses are cowpox and monkeypox. Now, so cowpox has a really interesting place in the history of medicine. So Edward Jenner noticed that milkmaids, when they got cowpox, which is characterized by those pustular lesions on the hands, they didn't get smallpox. So what he did, there was a milkmaid called Sarah Nelms. Now, she had those lesions of cowpox on her hand. And what he did, he scraped those lesions off and he then injected those cowpox lesions into an 8-year-old called James Phipps. So James Phipps, he had mild fever symptoms after the injection of the cowpox. Then after those symptoms had subsided, Edward Jenner then got those pustular lesions from someone who was suffering from smallpox and injected James Phipps with those lesions. What happened, luckily for James, was that he developed an immune response to the cowpox. And as we've said, cowpox and smallpox are cousins. You develop an immune response to one, immunity to one, you'll develop an immunity to all. So luckily for James Phipps, that theory proved to be correct and he survived. Nowadays, there's no chance that that experiment would occur. No ethics committee will allow that. But this was, back then where literally you could do anything. And in fact, they used to experiment on prisoners. So prior to that. But this is the history of vaccination. So we know monkeypox is related to smallpox. It's a distant cousin. But luckily, it's not as deadly, okay? Usually, monkeypox is self-limiting disease. It has similar symptoms to smallpox, i.e. you get those rashes, okay, those pustular rashes. There is a difference though, because smallpox or variola, that virus is only found in humans, okay? It doesn't live in the wild, in a host or a reservoir. It hasn't got a natural reservoir. So when we talk about host, we're talking about an animal where the virus resides but doesn't cause disease in that animal. And then that virus, when given the opportunity, can jump into humans and cause disease. When it does this, that's known as zoonosis. The jumping of the virus from the animal into humans is called zoonosis, and monkeypox is an example of that. Smallpox, the variola virus, can only survive in humans, okay? And that's why we were able to rid the earth of smallpox, because once we got rid of it out of humans, it couldn't escape into the wild and live and hide in a reservoir. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for monkeypox. Now, the name monkeypox, you think, oh, the natural reservoir are monkeys, but you'd be wrong. As its name would suggest, it lives in monkeys. It doesn't. It can infect non-human primates, hence the name. So monkeys aren't spreading it. So we're not going to get a Planet of the Apes scenario where this virus is hiding in monkeys, waiting to unleash itself on the human population. Now, that's not going to happen, although they do say it could be squirrels. So,
On my way over here, I ran into a squirrel.
natural reservoir are not monkeys. They get infected by the virus, hence the name. The reservoir, as yet, is unknown, but a lot of the scientists think the reservoir, the host, is a rodent, an African rodent, and it's kind of like a Trojan horse. So it's biding its time, it's waiting, this virus is waiting for the right opportunity to attack. So it hides in these animals, and when it gets the opportunity, it launches itself. Now, previous examples of outbreaks will demonstrate this. We'll come on to that in a little bit. Okay. Now, we said monkeypox is endemic in Africa, especially Central Africa and West Africa. Now, there's two different types of clades. That is basically types of the virus. And the virus that we're currently seeing, the type of clade it is from West Africa. It originates from West Africa. Now, the Central African monkeypox virus is much more virulent and spreads much more easily person to person. Now, the West African strain, luckily, is not able to spread as easily person to person as the Central African strain. We saw this from the 2003 outbreak, which we mentioned in the US. There was mainly the outbreak centered on people who were exposed to infected animals, the prairie dogs. Having said that, we do know that this is a highly transmittable disease from infected animals, and it can be transferred person to person, but it needs close physical contact or contact with an infected person's clothes or beddings, or even if you use their utensils. Okay, so now we'll just quickly touch upon the symptoms. So it's a viral infection, so we get an initial reaction. The incubation period before we see symptoms is about 5 days. Then we get the classic viral-like symptoms, headache, fever, malaise, muscle aches, okay? Then after about 5 days of getting these symptoms, we develop that characteristic rash, that pustular. So you get these blisters filled with pus. And then after a period of time, when we have these blisters, that's where we're in the infectious phase, okay? Now, when the blisters and these pus-filled vesicles scab over, that's when the infection stops. And that can take a few weeks. Okay, usually these symptoms are quite benign. They're usually self-limited. After a few weeks, you're fine. So it's usually, so again, to start with, we've got this incubation period. Then we have the classic symptoms: fever, headache, muscle aches, malaise, all the classic viral symptoms. And then we get the characteristic rash. But what sets monkeypox apart from the rest is it has massive involvement of the lymph nodes. We get massive inflammation of the lymph nodes, okay? And that is a distinguishing criteria. Also, it's been said these vesicles, these pus-filled blisters, resemble chickenpox.
You got chickenpox? But how?
I don't know. I kept away from Maggie all day.
But one of the ways it's different to chickenpox is how it presents. Now, with monkeypox, you get this sudden eruption all at once. With chickenpox, in the same area, you may get vesicles, blisters appearing in different stages of their evolution. So some may be more advanced than others. So you're not going to get this uniform rash. Now, in Africa, where monkeypox is endemic, it's not usually found outside of Africa. You get a situation where people are malnourished, and as a consequence, they're going to be immunocompromised. So when they get the rash, they'll get it over an entire surface. So it's like very confluent. It's just like spread over entire surface all at once. Unlike chickenpox, where you get vesicles appearing one after another. Now, as we said, monkeypox is a zoonosis. It's spread from the bite or scratch of an animal, or from the exchange of body fluids or blood of an animal. So if we eat an infected animal, then we can get that virus. If an animal bites us, we can get that virus. If it scratches us, we can get that virus. Now, we can also get the virus by taking in the germs left by the animals, so from their body fluids, where they reside in their excretions. As in the case in America, which we'll come to in the outbreak, if you was cleaning a cage of an infected animal and you didn't wash your hands and then you touched your mouth, so the unwashed hand will transfer the germs into the mouth and the virus will spread. In that case, the rash will spread on the face and spread out centrifugally to the rest of the body in the limbs. Okay, so the monkeypox virus is a self-limiting infection, classic viral type symptoms, headache, fever, malaise, muscle aches, and a lot of the care is supportive. Luckily it's self-limiting and usually benign. However, it can lead to serious complications in immunocompromised patients and the very weak and the very young. Now, the first known case of monkeypox was identified in the Democratic Republic of Congo in about 1970. And it coincided with the end of the smallpox vaccination, because as we've said, you vaccinate for one of the orthopox viruses, then you have immunity for the rest. So as there was a decline in the number of smallpox vaccinations, or if that generation died out, then we saw an increase in the incidence of monkeypox. Now, the first outbreak outside of Africa occurred in America in 2003, and it occurred when there was an exotic pet distributor in North Illinois who imported about 800 Ghanaian mammals. Among them is this handsome animal, the giant Gambian rat. It's weighs between about 2.5 to 5 pounds and is about 3 foot long, including that tail, and it's got a characteristic white marking on the end of the tail. Now, a lot of people like this rat. I don't know why. It's meant to be very lovable and, very cuddly. But it's also harbors within it that monkeypox virus. It's a carrier. It's like a Trojan horse. And it's a classic example of how the virus can spread its infection across continents. So it uses this giant Gambian rat as a Trojan horse. So this pet shop owner, then what he did, he stored the giant Gambian rat next to American prairie dogs, which are another popular pet in America. Now, these two animals will never meet in the wild. You're not going to get an American prairie dog hitching on a plane and traveling to, the Democratic Republic of Congo or West Africa or Ghana. It's not going to happen. So we've artificially created an environment where the virus that is within the giant Gambian rat can jump into the American prairie dog. Now, what happened was they were stored together, so the viruses jumped from the rat to the prairie dog. That pet shop distributor then sold one of those prairie dogs to a family in Wisconsin, and that family then came down with monkeypox. Their three-year-old daughter developed symptoms of monkeypox after the prairie dog bit her. The prairie dog itself was ill. It had weepy eyes, it had the rashes, and it was obviously ill. And when it developed those symptoms, it bit the 3-year-old, who subsequently got symptoms of monkeypox. 7 days later, the animal died, but fortunately, the girl survived. That was on May the 13th in 2003. Then also on June the 2nd, there was a meat inspector who dabbled part-time in distribution of exotic pets. From the same distributor in Illinois, he also brought some prairie dogs, and he was also based in Wisconsin. And this outbreak was mainly in Wisconsin, Illinois, and 3 other states in the Midwest. He also came down with symptoms of monkeypox and had to be hospitalized. So these two cases alerted the health authorities in America to act. And that's how they traced it right down to this very strange vector, this Gambian rat, who was responsible for who was basically the Trojan horse and was responsible for spreading the monkeypox virus in America. So that was the first case outside of Africa in 2003. There was another case in 2019 in Singapore where a man attended a conference. He was from Nigeria and he ate contaminated bushmeat. And then subsequently he developed monkeypox. Now, what makes this current outbreak of monkeypox really interesting is that monkeypox is endemic to Africa. It's not normally seen outside the continent. We've mentioned the outbreak in 2003, but we identified a root cause, and that was the importation of these exotic African pets. Now, from that outbreak, we saw that a lot of the transmission occurred when people came into contact with the infected animals. There wasn't a lot of people-to-people transmission. But what we're seeing now, we can't identify why monkeypox has jumped to all these different continents. It's gone to Australia, it's gone to Canada, it's gone to France, Portugal, UK, America. We don't know why this has happened, okay? And then what we're seeing is person-to-person spread. Now, the two strains, the Central African and the West African, the Central African has more person-to-person transmissibility. The West African strain is what we're undergoing now, was the strain that occurred in 2003. And we saw there wasn't much person-to-person transmission. But what we're seeing now, we're seeing that person-to-person transmission. So close personal contact is facilitating the transmission of monkeypox. Okay, close personal contact. So again, we're still learning about this current outbreak, but luckily for us, the outbreak, monkeypox itself is not as deadly as smallpox. Okay, it's self-limiting, and with supportive care, after a few weeks, we'll get rid of the infection. So if we go by the current statistics from the 20th of May, so Australia had 2 confirmed cases, Canada had 2 confirmed cases, France had 1 confirmed case. Portugal had 5 cases, but a further 20 were under a further investigation. USA had 1 case, and that was from a person who was returning from Canada. The UK had 16 cases, and 4 of these cases, what was interesting, was that they appeared in a certain cohort of individuals. These were men who had sex with men, and no one had any evidence of traveling to an area in Africa where monkeypox was endemic. So it's very strange that we've got these clusters appearing in geographical distinct locations. And this, at the minute, scientists don't know why this has happened. So we need to investigate further and be aware of people who get further symptoms. So if monkeypox, symptoms to look out for: viral type symptoms, headache, fever, malaise, muscle aches, rash, a rash like chickenpox, and also swelling of the lymph nodes. If you get these symptoms, stay at home, isolate yourself, avoid close personal contact. Don't share bedding, don't share clothes, don't share utensils. It's a mild infection, usually self-limiting, and usually what you need is supportive care. If you need painkillers, take paracetamol, ibuprofen, fine. And make sure you have plenty of fluid uptake. You should have full recovery in a few weeks. That was the fear that this could spread rapidly amongst the general population. But again, if we take those steps and just quarantine ourselves when we have that infection, it shouldn't be nothing to worry about. As we've said, it's quite a mild self-limiting disease. So we'll keep you up to date on further developments with the monkeypox virus. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe. And if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments and I will get back to you. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Stay safe. Thanks. Bye.